The white reveal.
We should do a Patreon episode where all the
Our
new and
sub in for a movie for the four of us.
The
the
worst thing
they
they
could
could talk
do-
about one of our eps.
They wouldn't watching one of our movies, would be listening to us talk.
It would be kind of funny if we did one like special episode where they did like a chick flick.
Mike to this.
Oh, like all 8 of us or 7?
Yeah.
Pretty easily.
That'd
You just
be
get a splitter and have like 2 people on one.
That's not
one
how
channel.
things work.
Yeah, maybe. I've seen people do it on YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah,
that'd be a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a good episode. I think you can do it.
Yeah.
So there's something I've been wanting to flip by you guys. I don't know. And who wants us to do a Bollywood movie?
Yeah.
Especially since I told her we had so many Indian listeners.
I mean,
And I
we're
feel
doing
like
Slumdog Millionaire.
That's not a Bollywood movie.
I know.
Yeah. And I almost added my mom's request that we do 1,000-foot
I think I've read that movie.
or 100-foot journey. It's about an Indian family, but it's definitely American made. And I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do 2 of those in 1 year.
Yeah.
I feel like that's rude.
I feel like my worry is that it's so different that I would be. Like, I like some of them now, but
Sure.
I feel like my worry would be like we would just hate it. And then
I'll
I'll just
tell
do like the biggest, most critically acclaimed one.
yeah,
even still,
I don't know, Jake.
it's 4 hours long,
Here's
and it's
I'm
4 hours
in.
long,
That's-
and it's
It's
about
a musical.
it's about people like trying to learn how to play cricket and beat the English at cricket to avoid taxes. Like it's just like
It's kind of cool.
yeah, but it's 4 hours long.
That
Like-
took me a week and a half to get through.
The first time I watched it with Anu, it was like 7 p.m. and she's like, "Would you like to watch this movie?" And I didn't know that it would be coming on midnight when we're done.
I think you should do it if for no other reason than I've been like continually like in every streaming app and even like on the last international flight I was on, I've been seeing more and more and more Bollywood movies being like for foreign film month.
That'd be a great time to do.
Watch out your pick around that time.
Okay, let's do foreign film month next year.
I'd have to ditch. I thought very long and hard about each pick.
What I've heard is a great movie, but I don't think you guys are gonna like it. And I already have Bridge on the River Kwai, which you guys aren't gonna like. I've never seen. But
Okay, Ron Swanson.
that's why I picked it.
Yeah, you are the most Ron Swanson friend we have.
I appreciate that.
In some ways,
And,
you like.
and I mean that all of us individually. You are Ron Swanson to each of our stories.
I would be honored if that were true. I don't know if that is true, but I'll try to live up to that.
I mean, you're into woodworking.
I'm trying. I'm getting in there.
You're cantankerous as can be.
Kind of.
And you have a deep love for movies that the world has loved, but the world has forgotten. But you remember them still.
That's why, because Ron said that this was one of 3 movies he'd ever seen. And when we do this movie, I'm going to request that we pick the clip of Ron saying, "Herbie, fully loaded."
Yeah.
My girlfriend's kid loved it. It's pretty funny.
All right. Well.
I feel like you're the Gary Gergich of my story.
Oh.
I'm gonna go home.
Wow. Did you guys?
Zach has
several
met him
times.
as well.
Several times.
She's met him several times.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a regular.
He's
at
a
the restaurant.
regular at
Oh,
Tequila.
really? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You should
since-
go
since
hang
it
out
opened.
at Tequila and be like, "Do you remember
Do you remember me?
from
And
that
show
time
me
we
a
met in the
picture of
airport?"
us. Yeah, I met him too.
But sing the Coco song. Don't just have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
Sing the
Sing
Coco song.
Coco. Oh,
Remember
yeah, I
me.
remember
Yeah.
me. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that.
Sing the Gergich eggs, bacon, and toast song.
Oh yeah,
I'll do that.
bacon and
Yeah,
toast.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
I'm sure no one's ever done that to him before.
Yeah.
so
No,
he'll probably
100%.
get a kick out
You're
of
the
it.
first person to have done that. Maybe the first person that's ever met him.
Yeah, because it basically just came out last week.
It's just me and Liz.
Yeah, that's it.
And nobody
Oh,
on
so you
Fox.
like the thing from It Follows?
Yeah.
No one can see him.
Yeah, just Zach and Liz.
Zach and Liz have slept with him.
Wow.
Biggest penis I think.
Do you know if he has the most?
I don't. I was too distracted by the biggest penis I've ever seen.
All right, let's jump into this one, guys. What is up, and welcome back to another episode of Rotten Potatoes, the podcast where four friends sit down and review movies that you absolutely should have seen already, but at least one of us hasn't. My name's Tyler, and I'm here with three of my best friends.
What's up? I'm Scott.
I'm Bathsheba.
I am the Catholic Church.
I don't think I want to be sitting next to either of you.
But who would you be more upset to be sitting next to?
I feel
if
less
you were
safe
an
next to
11-year-old
Zach.
I feel less safe next to Zach.
You guys are old enough.
Well, we are reviewing The Conjuring. We are deep into Spooktober.
We're more than halfway through.
More than now officially. Well, I guess we're literally halfway through now. Once we get through this episode, we will be more than
I think like 1 second into this episode, we were more than halfway.
That's fair. That's fair.
Technically.
Depends on how long the episodes are, I guess.
By some measurement, yeah. No, we're mowing through Spooktober this year, and I picked what I think is probably we talked a little bit about it with Patreon before this episode. Which, by the way, if you want more Rotten Potatoes, you can get a little bit more out of it by going to patreon.com/Rotten Potato Pod. But I think this is probably the scariest Spooktober movie that we've done so far. We're 4 years in, halfway through our
Can't
fourth year.
affirm.
It's not the scariest for me,
Not the
but
scariest for you.
I think it's probably the most horror movie of the last 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. That's a big part of why I picked it. I had seen this movie before a few times, and to me, like when it comes to like just horror movies, to me this is like the gold standard. Scott, why don't you hit us with a little bit of just the facts, and afterward, I'd like to just go directly to you because I'm most nervous.
Mm-hmm.
I'm most interested to hear what
You don't even want to talk about it? You're too spooks?
Well, I didn't watch it, so.
Too spooky?
So this was film number 8 of the greatest franchise ever, directed by James Wan. That was a joke, by the way.
Yeah,
I didn't get it.
So-
What are you talking about?
So James Wan did Furious 7, Furious 9, I think.
No,
Furious
9 was
eight.
Wait, did he
Justin
direct
Lin.
this movie?
James Wan
James
did
Wan
this
also
movie
did-
and Furious 7.
That's insane.
So I still got us a best director.
This is the year of
to
Wan.
Spooktober. Wan and Lin.
Yeah, Justin Lin for sure did the most, but James Wan did 7, which is their best one. So, or
Not
most critically
according
acclaimed.
to us.
Their most critically acclaimed one.
Yeah.
So directed by James Wan, written by Chad Hayes and Carrie Hayes, released July. I just deleted something on the tab. Command Z.
You got it.
There we go.
You learned some shortcuts.
There we go. This released on July 19th, 2013. Runtime of 112 minutes. Rotten Tomatoes gave it an 86%, IMDb 7.5. Had a pretty big box office of 319 million on a budget of 20 million. So that's a 16x return. It won for the best horror picture, and then wasn't nominated for anything else.
Is that a
That's a Saturn.
Saturn. Yeah, it's a Saturn.
Sorry, this is super tangential, but you know what Justin Lin directed?
James Wan or Justin Lin?
Justin Lin.
Oh, okay.
Just 'cause-
Not who directed this.
No,
Yeah.
but just because we brought him up with regarding Fast and Furious, he directed the Community paintball episode.
Oh,
Which
I
one?
like that episode.
The first one, the original one. Yeah.
Of Community.
Mhm.
That's why he's at the community paintball episode.
Yeah, I realized that after it's kind of like just the title of an episode.
Sure. Yeah.
Zach had been trying to sell me on Community for a while, and he didn't tell me that they had a paintball episode that was parodying the Dollars franchise.
Yeah.
And I feel like that would have been a very easy way to sell me on that.
It probably would have. I think I kind of forgot.
Yeah.
I should have.
I mean, to be fair, there were so many parodies in that season that to like care about any of them individually is sacrilege. Like they're
That's-
all beautiful.
What I think is my favorite thing about the show is it eventually became a like parody or reference machine where like they're like parodying Civil War documentaries.
Oh yeah,
Pillow fight.
yeah.
And that's very funny.
Yeah.
And
They're
I
doing full.
TV so often try to not air it. They're just
Yeah.
like, this sucks and no one else likes it, so
Yeah.
we're gonna cancel you.
yeah,
And
100%.
Dan Harmon's like, please, people watch this show.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
But Scott, you said you think probably the scariest.
Out of all the Spooktober picks we've done so far, I think this is the scariest.
Now, I'll say
Scarier than Young Frankenstein?
That was scary for a different reason, like
Okay.
scary bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't exactly remember the first time I saw this, but I remember seeing this, I think probably in theaters, and then I remember seeing this so vividly at a youth group leaders hangout.
What?
Yeah,
Weird.
I know. You want to know the weirder thing? I won't like fully dox who this is, but those who know will know. It was D. Bish that like fun.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was very surprised.
Did he like it? Like,
I flagged it
Had
just
he
in case
seen
it
it
was
before and was like, "This is a great movie," or was it like, "Oh, let's watch a scary movie"?
I think it was let's watch a scary movie, and I
Okay.
knew what we were going into, and Philip Mayberry knew what we were going into, and we both were like, "Oh God, this is
You flag that name too.
no, it's fine."
That would have been a great "What We Do in the Shadows" night.
yes, yeah, it would
That's what
have.
they should have watched.
It would have. It
Or
would
It Follows.
That would have been probably worse than The Conjuring
have.
for different reasons.
But I remember that so vividly, and this movie always freaks me out. It freaked me out this time for sure.
Was that your first time watching it?
That was my second time.
Was
I
the
don't-
first time in theaters?
The first time was in theaters. Johnny was always dragging me to horror movies. So was Jacob. He was always dragging me to horror
Mhm.
movies. So there were a lot of people over the years.
That was me.
You did not drag me to horror movies.
The number of people that I know that are shocked to find out that my name is Jacob is staggering.
Oh,
Like I meet a Jake and I'm like, "You're Jacob. Okay, we're gonna not. That
right.
doesn't even need to be addressed." And then people are like, "Your name is Jacob. Have you been lying to me this whole time?"
I'm confused by that because if I went by Ty, I would assume that most people would assume that my first name is Tyler.
Dude, they won't.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know my real name.
Scoffy?
Yeah, Scottio.
Scoffy.
Yeah.
That's why there's the double T like Matt.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Who else had seen this movie before?
I've seen this movie. This may be the fifth or fourth or fifth time I've seen this movie.
Okay, Zach. had
That's
you
a
seen-
lot for someone who doesn't.
Doesn't-
like
I know,
horror
yeah.
movies.
Don't like it at all.
Don't I hate them? But man,
Why
I've
have
watched
you
this a
seen this
bunch.
movie so many times?
I think I had seen
That's more
this.
than me. I think.
I had seen this with like, when did this movie come out?
13.
Yeah, so I think I'd seen this in high school with friends that wanted to see it, didn't like it, and then I've watched it twice with my girlfriend because she loves it. She loves the Conjuring series. I was telling Zach.
Oh, she watches all of them. She
Like
loves them all.
Annabelle and the Nun and all
Yeah, I was telling Zach.
This is like a comfort movie for her.
Yeah, it's an underwear movie in her household. But I was telling Zach that I told her, I was like, I need to watch The Conjuring for the podcast. I really don't want to do it. And then all of a sudden I was watching The Nun. And I was like, did she drug me? Like, what happened? Because The Nun sucks. Like, The Nun is awful, and it's a horror movie
Yeah, I heard.
in the vein that I don't like.
I heard this is the best of the entire like Conjuring universe.
Yeah,
It's-
I've only watched a couple, but this is by far
Without
the
a doubt.
best. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the best movie. Like
Out of
all of them
those
are
ones, yeah.
they're bad movies. Yeah.
But yeah, this is probably the fourth time I've seen this movie.
Zach, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip on Jake. So you had seen this quite a bit. What do you think watching it this time?
I don't particularly like it. I don't think it's that scary. I think that like there is something that is so unintimidating and silly to me about a demon that's like, I gotta be a little spooky little guy to
Here's the thing, though.
spook these little guys.
Here's
you
the
know?
thing, though. Like, I think this gets like somewhat poorly characterized as a demon movie.
I don't think it is a demon movie
They
at all.
never call her a demon. They call her a witch at every
Yeah.
turn.
That is
But
the
they're
thing.
exercising her.
Yeah, is they perform it. They perform an exorcism on the witch,
Right.
which is weird.
Which is weird.
So like it like, is it a demon movie? Isn't it?
It's a
I'm not
spirit
gonna
of
make.
some kind.
It's
I'm
a-
not gonna make
it's
a
a spirit of
judgment
some
on
kind.
that. But
I
it's
feel
like
like
there's
it's
like
like an
a,
implied demon.
there's like a possession. There's like a possession movie at least. And so like there's something that's so unintimidating about it like trying to scare me that I'm like, this is just silly. That where I'm like, this isn't that scary. I don't think it's very scary this is the kind of movie that I don't like, where it just gets like kind of gross sometimes, and that is what I think bothers me. Whereas she's like vomiting into the wife's mouth, and like that's like I'm like, this is just gross, and I don't want to look at this.
What about when in It Follows when it was an old lady that was just peeing on her toe?
Yeah, that
I liked
bothered me too.
I liked looking at that.
Jake was into it.
Yeah. No, I didn't look at that. So like I don't know, I didn't particularly like it. I think I can see why, for people who like horror movies, this is the most famous horror movie in a long time. That said, I don't like it at all.
I just got to be a spooky.
I just gotta be a spooky little boy.
Yeah, like that's kind of how it reads to me sometimes. Where I'm like, why is the demon or the witch doing?
Yeah, I think that's 100% accurate.
Yeah,
As someone who really likes this movie, I think that is
yeah.
very much true.
Yeah, I agree. Zach, you had seen this movie
I had
before.
seen this movie before. I'll reveal something that's pretty embarrassing about myself. The first time I watched this, I was like a senior in high school, I think. It was 2013. And a little bit of important information to make sense of this story is that I was raised with the belief that the more demon type content you consume, so like this would fall into that category without a doubt. The more of that you expose yourself to, the more likely it is that demons will come and try to scare you in real life and or try to possess you.
That can I tell a funny anecdote to say? I had a similar
Can
upbringing.
I finish mine?
Yeah, no, 100%. Sorry. I want to get back to it.
Okay. So I watched this movie in theaters and was so scared that when I went home, I got in bed with my brother.
Your little brother.
I was a freshman in high school. And he wakes up and he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Shut up." And he was just, "Oh, fine." And I slept in bed with my brother that night.
Did your
Because I was
parents
so
know that
scared
you
to be
saw
out.
the movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was so scared that night.
So your parents thought you invited a demon into the house.
I don't think necessarily that they thought it was like a one-time offense. But I know that they were not happy. I don't know if my dad really but I think my mom was like not thrilled that I went to watch
It's
that.
hilarious to me because I knew you when this happened and I didn't know that story.
Oh yeah, I was not confident enough to tell people that at the time. I told no one.
I think you and I were on a volleyball team together
Mhm.
at that time.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
And I
That
was
you were a little limp boy.
back then. You were a freshman. I was a junior,
Yeah.
so you probably had a lot of respect for me back then.
No, 100%.
Probably-
Jake, did you go sleep in one of your sister's room after you saw it?
Yeah, I drove. Actually no, I was in high school. So yeah, I went to two of my sisters shared a room, and I was like, I'm gonna sleep in the middle of you guys.
No, but that all being said, since then I've seen this movie a few times since then, and I really like it. I have a lot of fun with this movie. I think that this movie, and I'm just a lot less scared of demons IRL. But I feel like this movie is, for me, the perfect balance of scary and fun. There's a lot of like scary horror movies that I have a lot of fun with that I don't think are as scary as this movie. And then there are other movies that I've seen that I think are scarier, but it's past the point of me enjoying them or just having fun with them. It's kind of gotten into the realm of like, I really don't enjoy this experience right now, and I don't feel like I should be watching this. And so this is, and I think because in so many ways, this just feels like a very classic, for lack of a better word, maybe like kind of a generic haunted house movie, but just done really well. And so I just think it's a great Halloween horror movie that I
think
do genuinely have fun watching.
a haunted house movie. It's the haunted house movie of our generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
But there
I
was
think I would agree.
no like pigs with red eyes out the window.
There
So
were no
it
pigs
wasn't-
with red eyes.
Wasn't as good.
Yeah,
as Amityville.
as
Yeah.
Amity.
But
You're
I want to tell my demon anecdote just to commiserate with you a little bit. Where my mom, for some reason, her biggest thing was that she didn't want I don't know, demon stuff or whatever. And then I really wanted to buy Halo when I was a kid, and she's like, "This has nothing to do with demons, right?" And I was like, "No, it's like aliens." And then I didn't know this. It was Halo 3, and I'd never played one because this is the first Xbox I'd owned. They call the Covenant, call the Master Chief the demon. and I lived in fear. If I'm not hearing that, he can't play Halo. I was like, dude, you don't get it. They just don't like him because he kills all of them, and that's why. But I was so scared that my mom was gonna find out that they called him that. That I played a lot of Halo 3 with the mute on because I didn't have a TV in my room at the time, and I was in the family room.
Would you say that you were more afraid of that demon depicted than this demon depicted?
100%. And I was like, she's gonna take it away from me.
That's why I wasn't allowed to play Kingdom Hearts, because I rented the game and there's a shot that I remember playing where like a character gets his soul taken out of him or something like that.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the specifics, but it was too closely related to like a demon possessing someone. And my parents saw me play that scene, and I think Goofy is in that shot. Goofy from Disney is in that shot, and my parents said that's too demonic.
It's the silliest game of all time, and my mom said the same. She's like, "There's a darkness to this game." Yeah. But anyways, I wanted to commiserate with you a little bit on the demon thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it invites like demonic presence into your life, but I do think it can like affect the way you think about things.
Oh, sure, totally.
And that's where I don't like it. Like,
Okay.
I like there's just like images in this movie or like ideas in this movie that I don't like.
Yeah.
Like I like my innocent, not scary brain.
So like not like baby birding, like devil vomit.
That's like an image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the ones that's bothering you, or like what are these?
Any of the like
process your trauma.
Yeah, like, any of
Relive them, please.
the scary faces. Like, you know, when the weird little witch thing is above the cabinet in my little like scrunched form.
Spooky.
Actually did want to touch on something about that. Specific about the one on the cabinet.
Okay.
Like I was like, oh, okay. Like that special effects wise wasn't as scary as maybe I was expecting. Like makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Shiva's face was over Wife's face.
was coming through the sheet mostly. But I actually really appreciated it. I was like, you know what? Like if there's ever a time where I appreciate the uncanny valley, it's in horror, and I wouldn't want this to look any better than it does. Like, yeah, it might not have held up great over time, but I'm glad that it didn't. Like, I don't want that to feel that real. Like, that's gonna like be real nightmare fuel instead of just fun scary.
Yeah,
So,
well,
go ahead.
I would say the thing with it too, like, is like there was almost no digital effects in this. It was all practical effects.
Very practical.
And I think that's part of also why it holds up and still feels scary, because like, you know, old movies that have digital effects, they look so bad now, like it's easily like, oh, this isn't real. Whereas this is all very like in your mind, like in total, like all the scary parts, you see like three things.
Right.
Like there's not a whole lot to it. And so the whole time you're just building up this tension in your mind around things. Like you see a shadowy figure in a shadow and you can't really see what it is. And, you know, you see hands, or you just see, you know, a girl get like pulled in her bed, or like whatever it is. And you don't really see the thing a whole lot. And so that's part of why it is so scary.
No, I agree completely. Like I think about another scary movie that I saw that came out around this time was Insidious, that also spawned like a huge franchise, including Sinister, I think. I think Sinister was part of the Insidious. Like,
Sinister is so much scarier. It's so much more unsettling than Insidious.
Yeah,
I think when you finally see the monster, the demon Insidious,
no, totally.
It's like laughable.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, is that it's like, that's one of the things that it's like they used really digital effects on that one, and it really doesn't hold up. Like it scared the hell out of me when I saw it in theaters, and then when I saw it even 6 months later, like I was like, oh,
yeah,
wow, yeah, no, that's really bad CGI.
And I think that's kind of to my point that I brought up last week, where it's like, what? And I heard Jordan Peele talking about this as I think he's becoming maybe the great horror director of our generation. Like what is in your head is always scarier than what they can show you.
Yeah.
And so like the explanation, the definitive thing is always going to be less scary than the unknown, and what you're imagining is going to be the thing. And so that's where it's like, oh, okay, this is like a witch lady, and the guy, the demonologists have like got a handle on this. So I'm like, all right, cool, we're done. Like they're fine.
Oh yeah. Also, they're the worst parents of all time.
100%.
Just leaving their kid.
Oh, the demonologist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leaving their kid at home with a room full of like possessed trinkets and saying, "Hey, don't go in here." But
Just
also
don't
it's
go in
unlocked.
here. Yeah, exactly.
It's like
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna leave you for like days on end.
We have 15 signs on the door, but not a single lock.
honor system, don't go in. I know it's mysterious and you're curious. And you're 10, so you can like explore a little bit.
I'm assuming the Conjuring 2 has to do with their daughter.
I don't think so.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
No.
No.
They leave her for even longer because they go to London.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. The Conjuring 3 for sure has to have their daughter.
No.
I don't think so.
No, their daughter is such an insignificant part of their lives.
It's such a deep sequel of Annabelle that she comes back.
It's the wait. There's the I thought there wasn't a Conjuring 3.
There is.
Yeah,
I
there's a
think.
Conjuring 3.
So I think there are 3 proper Conjuring movies. There's The Nun,
None 2.
Annabelle, and The
2.
Nun 2.
Yeah.
I think there's like 2 or 3 Annabelle.
Yeah, there's
I
Annabelle.
think there's a
Are there
few.
really?
Yeah, I think there's a
so.
few.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen any of the Annabelle movies, and I hope I don't.
I've seen Conjuring 1 and 2, and that is it.
So I've seen more of these than you have.
You have.
That sucks.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
you.
I've
Yeah.
seen The Nun as well. So I've seen Conjuring 1 and 2 and The Nun.
I liked Conjuring 2. I don't think it's as good as this one, but that one is a little bit more of like a fun horror movie.
It's a little more like Haunting on Hill House. A little
Yeah,
bit.
you've said that a couple times. I have never had fun being scared,
I just do.
which is part of why I hate these movies. Like it's just, it does what it's trying to do, but that's not a good experience for me.
I think
Yeah,
that,
and I
like,
get that. And if we weren't doing this, I wouldn't make you do it.
like, I
But we
think
are doing
You
it.
also promised to watch this with me, and you didn't.
It's true. It's true.
that's the scariest part of all, is that Tyler's unreliable to you.
Yeah, Tyler's like, I'll watch this with you, and then just screwed off to Croatia.
Yeah,
And you're like,
exactly.
Tyler, we've got to record these tomorrow. Why haven't you watched this with me yet?
Like, sorry, dude.
I watched this in a bright plane.
So I watched this on my phone while I was at church this morning.
Did you really? Oh,
That's he felt the safest there.
Yeah.
I
I
was,
thought that would be super fun.
I was gonna say,
But
it's a
it-
pretty funny move.
I know there are no there aren't like crosses in your church, but let's say one of them turned upside down while you're watching it.
Uh-huh.
What would you do?
Inside the church?
Yeah.
That would be fine. There's still lots of people there.
Yeah. So you think that lots
Would you
of
just keep
people
watching?
like lots of people are
There's
just
safety
that's fine.
numbers.
That the demon is like, all right, there's a lot of people here. I'm not gonna do anything.
Yeah, I mean that's
When-
tracked throughout most of history. Yeah.
When was the last time you saw like a scary movie where there's like a crowd of people?
Midsummer.
Do you know? Yeah, that I didn't know that.
But that's not very deep.
Um,
They're
No,
worshiping demons, but there are no demons
That's
involved
true.
with that.
You wouldn't be at least a little.
I wish Scott. I wish that I made movies now, so I can make a horror movie with a big crowd for you.
I wouldn't watch it.
I'd pick it.
I
for
guess
Spooktober.
World-
Jake, if you
World
were
War Z?
legitimately a famous director,
Yeah, our
and you
podcast
made
would be
movies,
huge.
Night
I
of the
still
Living
wouldn't
Dead.
watch them.
I'd pick it for Spooktober. I would be the
You'd pick your own movie.
yeah.
for
Well, I'd be the
Spooktober.
what's her name who makes out to her own music in Creed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I would be that person if I was a director, a horror
Hmm.
director.
You would exclusively watch your own movies.
Yeah, I'd pick them for this podcast. I'd be
Yeah.
like, what did you guys think about this choice that I made?
And like we would nominate our picks, and you would come every other week and be like, "Didn't watch it."
Yeah, I'd be like, I don't watch anything I didn't share.
I did notice. Sorry, this is like a change of topic back to the movie a little
It's
bit. I
probably a good
noticed a continuity error. in this.
Sorry, I'm bringing this back
Oh.
to the movie.
So when the demonologists, when they first come to the house, all the mattresses are in the main living area. Like they've been obviously
Mhm.
sleeping together ever since they realized it was haunted. And then they go to set up the cameras, and there's like shots of them setting it up in the room, and the mattresses are in the beds.
Yeah.
And then it goes and shows one of the video footages, and the mattresses are no longer on the beds again. It's like, so they brought them up just to set up the cameras, then took them.
Then where
You
did
know
they
what,
go?
that
Yeah.
that wasn't what I saw on my thing. Maybe the demon was trying to spook me.
Maybe.
That wasn't what I saw in my thing.
It was like,
The
oh, this is
witch,
really gonna get them. I'm gonna
James.
show mattresses.
The witch.
the witch did this to spook you, Bathsheba.
Bathsheba.
You know what I learned from a lot of these movies? Thank God I live on the West Coast. Like all
only
of these
happens on the
things
East
happen.
Coast.
Like it's like East Coast,
Yeah.
like old colonial witches.
Yeah.
Thank God I live here.
Like everything that existed pre 1900.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and you know, yeah. So West Coast, like that joined America way later. We're good.
We're
chilling.
safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, we weren't
There are no ghosts and there are no demons here. Knock on wood.
I mean, I've traveled like to be a tourist to 3 different towns in the South.
Yeah.
And had 3 different ghost tours.
Yeah, that's what I just.
And I've never been to a ghost tour in like Southern California.
I did.
County.
Yeah,
I did do
one
a
in like Temecula.
Yeah,
I did
no.
a ghost tour in San Diego, but San Diego is a little old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cities maybe like
Yeah.
so San Diego, San Francisco, Seattle for sure. There's been some stuff that got up there.
Well,
but like out here, no.
Well, and
nothing.
this wasn't like a ghost story, but like, you know, I went back to Pennsylvania to visit some family, not that like last year.
And you saw ghosts.
And I would like, no, but there are graves everywhere on the
Yeah.
East Coast, just everywhere. And you can just start walking through one and easily see graves that are like 17 something, 16 something. And you're like, oh, wow, this is an old place.
Yeah, that's what I was just in Scotland and I was walking around a graveyard in St. Andrews and I was like, oh, that person's been here for a while. Maybe they're haunting this place and I get to go home.
Yeah. Was there mattresses around?
Yeah, no, I was like, this is a little bit weird because it probably rained a lot here. It wasn't raining then, but I assume that they probably get a little bit wet. Those mattresses do. But
They probably take them in and out when it's raining or not.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
So one thing that kind of surprised me watching this movie back through this time was some of the like actually really interesting like cinematography. Like I actually felt like there was some like creative decisions that they made that I felt like were really good that I hadn't noticed before. And one in particular that stood out to me, and it's a small shot, but I just thought it was really unique. Was how they treated as soon as they move into the house, the dog won't go in.
Mm-hmm.
And the camera gets really low and cuts off the dad. And so it's just the camera's pushing in through the screen door on the dog. And he's like petting the dog and trying to like coax it to come in and it's whining and everything like that. But I thought it was really unique to make the dog in that shot the main character of that moment as opposed to the human. And I thought it actually like it did something for me where it was like, okay, yeah, this dog is seeing something that he doesn't see. But the way that they did it, it wasn't super heavy-handed. It got the message across, but it got the message across and I felt like a really creative way.
I think, yeah, I don't know how to say it. I think it was effective enough that I didn't notice it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Totally.
Or like,
Yeah.
I think I maybe picked up on what you were saying, but I didn't think about it.
Yeah. And I think that's even what I mean is this was like a really small thing that I'm picking out that I was like, wow, that was a really interesting choice when it happened. And it should be innocuous. And I think most of the time it has been innocuous for me, but this time I just happened to notice it. And I thought that was really interesting. And there were quite a few different things like that I noticed throughout. Small things that I felt like were really, really cool, interesting decisions.
Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know, unless you're really thinking about a movie that you're watching, the best thing you can say about those interesting decisions is that you didn't think about
100%.
them, but you absorbed them.
Yeah,
You're
100%.
like, later something will make sense because of something that you didn't even think about.
Totally.
I was just looking at my notes real quick, and one of the things that I thought was interesting was like from our opening scene, like they're talking about like, oh, it was like 200 how big the plot of land was. I don't remember what it was, like square miles or whatever. Then she started like, oh yeah, you know, like this little boy died and this maid over here, she died. And I was just thinking like, wow, it chose a random, very few amount of people to actually haunt.
I think
Out of all the people that have lived in the subdivided land, why was it like 2 stories, 3 stories?
In my head, I just thought these are the stories that she found, but there were probably more. That was just the leap I made.
Yeah.
I think to like, I don't know, hopefully
it just felt like an underwhelming share. Okay, so we're the third in the history for the last few hundred years.
Yeah, but like for the sake of the movie, would you want to have been like, and then this person here, and then that guy here?
Well, it was just
and
like
this lady here.
But the thing it was like that one random person, like a boy died,
I mean,
It wasn't like the parents and the family like had like
These-
a thing.
or
These
you
are the ones
could've-
that happened in this house. I think was what
No,
we-
she was talking about different areas of the
around
subdivided
the
thing.
massive plot. Of land.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I get what you're saying, but I wouldn't have wanted to get bogged down with all these stories. So
Sure.
like,
Yeah,
maybe
I
they
agree.
could have done something to made us feel like there were more stories, but I didn't. I would be so bored if they were like in this story, in this story, in this one, in this one.
There was that, and I'm not going to say this is like a continuity error. Like there's supernatural stuff happening, so you can write it off. But so he plays the tape, and like the woman's voice isn't there, right? And then I guess like the demon presses play, but it's now back at the beginning of the tape again. It never
Well,
rewound.
Yeah, but we were focused on them. You didn't see the demon didn't rewind.
Yeah, you just didn't notice.
And she was like, "All right,
Just be a
hold
little
on,
spooky boy.
hold on. Now,
That's what took the demon so long. He was
Yeah.
waiting for it to rewind.
You know what though? Because I think that like when that happens, we hear a really scary sound, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm not going to try to argue the logic of what you're saying, but that just always creeps me out. Like whenever any movie does that, like it happened in The Exorcist, and it happens. I think even in
One of my favorite. It's not even really a horror movie, but Mothman Prophecies. Have you ever seen
I haven't.
I don't
Mothman?
even think I've heard of it.
But the audio tape is like a big part of that movie as well. Like,
Yeah, and it even kind of happens in a different way, but very similarly in Zodiac. And just whenever that happens, it really gets me. Like it really creeps me out, and I love that trope.
I think the more, especially in, I think maybe only in a horror movie, the more things don't necessarily make sense, the more unsettling it is. Because you
Totally.
think, why did that happen and what happened?
Yeah, once again, I wasn't saying
Yeah.
it was a continuity error. I was like, okay, it's supernatural. Like,
But it's funny to poke
Whatever.
fun at.
yeah, there was that. I do have one funny written thing that I'm gonna say for my last point. My second to last, I said the dad has just the like perfect timing. He always showed twice. He showed up right as there was like an occurrence happening,
right.
which I just thought was
A little Scooby Doo.
like, okay, he shows up right as this is happening again. So that was one thing. And then the funny thing I wrote down was I said Lorraine is basically Dom Toretto.
Just like
Because
Which
she's
one
like
is Lorraine?
the one who was like a clairvoyant.
Okay.
And
The one who's all about me familia.
but no, she's like recreating like the beach day in her mind.
Yeah.
And I immediately just thought of that Dom
Dom
Toretto
Toretto.
scene.
That was the.
She's got it totally wrong. Like it's
It wasn't a good day.
It wasn't a good day.
we were in the mountains and we fought the whole day. That was my least, like my biggest problem with the movie. Just like, oh my god, how did you know that? It's like you have a picture right there that she was looking at of you guys on your beach day.
yeah, and you hired a clairvoyant.
Yeah. How'd you figure it out? I don't know how you did that.
But there was no beach in the picture.
That's true. It's just Sky.
It was
If
just
there would have been Coronas, then there would have been because
yeah.
That's true. My favorite line was, "You can have any beer you want as long as it's a Corona."
I really, one of the things that I really appreciate about this movie is, again, like I talked about it a little bit with It Follows, but this movie's sense of pace, I feel like crushes it for horror movies in terms of like, okay, like they're gonna scare me, and then there's gonna be a lot of slow burn about stuff, and then they're gonna jump scare me again. But I never feel like, even though I can read, sort of what's coming next, like any story, I feel like they still manage to like get me quite a bit, and it doesn't, like, the pacing feels entirely its own. It doesn't feel derivative from something else.
I think it does feel derivative.
Oh,
This is what
okay.
I was thinking. Is like, this is my like, I don't know. To me, I thought like, okay, this is kind of scary, and then our Van Helsing comes in, or our like fisherman from Jaws comes in,
Yeah.
and it's like, this is what is happening, and this is how we're going to handle it, and that's where it completely loses me. It's like scary. So I mean, there's somebody that has a handle on the situation who's going to come in and is going to fix it for me.
Even if they're both apprehensive about not being able to handle this situation.
Yeah, but they know more than we do.
Yeah.
And like
that's true.
they know, like, I don't know if you've like read Dracula, but Dracula is like or Van Helsing is like, what is like Dracula's realtors, assistants, fiancés, friends, old college professor.
Right.
That's Van Helsing.
Right.
And he comes in, he's like, oh, I think I can handle this.
Yeah.
or like it, where there's somebody that knows more than I do,
Yeah.
and where we're following and we're kind of relating to the parents or the husband and wife here, and then somebody comes in and kind of relieves us of the burden of the situation.
Yeah.
Where that is where I feel like a lot of, I don't know, horror movies feel maybe derivative to me, maybe not scary to me, where I'm like, well, there's somebody that's going to come in and they take the burden of the situation off of me, where I am, in this case, I'm the parent who bought this house that sucks, that's possessed by an
Right.
old witch or whatever. And they kind of take the burden of being scared off of me because they know what's going on,
Right.
at least more than I do, and
Yeah.
I can look to them for answers.
That's fair. No, that's really interesting.
I think that I agree with both of you. Like to speak to the point of pacing, Tyler, I 100% agree with you. I don't think it ever really lags. I feel like it moves at a really nice pace and escalates to, in my opinion, a very satisfying payoff. I think a lot of horror movies.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say it's bad because I love drama.
Where a lot of horror movies, like the ending can fall really flat. And I definitely agree with Jordan Peele that like what we imagine can oftentimes be a lot scarier than what is revealed to us. And so there's a lot of times where once you see the monster, it's really not scary anymore. But I still, for the most part, feel like this movie managed to at least make me remain tense. It did still kind of scare me. I actually did find Bathsheba, the makeup and everything that went along with that, still pretty scary. And the last scene of this movie really intense.
Mhm.
And then I also kind of agree with you, Jake, that I do feel like this movie is a little derivative. This movie feels like it's very much following a blueprint, but that's not an issue for me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like with like a haunted house type movie, I don't really need you to reinvent the wheel. If you can and sell me on it, even better. But if not, you're giving me what I already want. And I feel like what I need you to do is sell me on this being scary to me, and then sell me that this is scary to the characters and that this is an urgent situation. And I feel like this movie does that really well.
I think I agree. I don't think that being derivative is necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think that like being able to take a formula and do it excellently is not bad.
I think that's probably very hard.
Yeah.
And I think this movie does it well.
Yeah, and like I know that it's not for me, but I think what I was trying to say was like something about what happened took the fear away from me.
Yeah. I do think that it's a bit predictable, but
Well,
that's okay.
It was interesting you said like blueprint. You guys were talking about like it's following like a pattern, and I was like, well, yeah, they like set it on movie. What like on the chalkboard it said like there's going to be a connection point, and then there's going to be oppression, and then there's going to be possession. Like
Right.
like he laid out what the movie was going to be like to the audience at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And it's a kind of the anti-prestige, where the prestige they give you this thing and you're like, what are they talking about? But then it's like, oh, okay, this is this, and you pick it up as it's going along.
You're like, okay, we're at that point of this process.
Yeah, where in the prestige I was like, oh, whoa, and this one it didn't catch me off guard.
Yeah, and that's true. I guess what I meant by saying it's not derivative, I meant more so it's not derivative in its pacing. I think it is very derivative in a lot of its like themes and like a lot of the plot points for sure. I agree with that. But I love that this and maybe I guess Zach, you said maybe what I was trying to say even better. Or Jake, maybe you said it, that it's like that it took maybe an exacting formula. I think that it executed on it uniquely well.
Yeah, and
then maybe that's a better way to say my thoughts.
And that's not. Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily a knock.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
To say like you took the thing that we know and you did it really well, and that's why I was saying like I didn't say like this is the haunted house movie, but I said this is the haunted house movie of our generation.
Right.
Because like it's been done before, but this is what's been done for, I don't know, people of our age.
I will say one of the things that this movie has, I think that it just executed really well on is like I felt like all the acting was pretty solid. Like I believed every character I never once throughout the entire movie thought about the acting. Like they were just the character. And so I think that's part of what also like fed it. I get drawn into stories, which is why I don't like scary movies. Like I put myself into the story.
Yeah.
And whenever an actor isn't that great, it pulls me out. And that just never happened with it. So I was like tense the entire time. I think the pacing was right the whole time. Which is why I hated my experience.
Yeah.
You were saying you were watching out of your, I don't know if you said it on this or before, we were saying you're watching out of your peripheral vision.
Yeah. Well, I said this before too. So I read the plot front to back multiple times
Just so you knew
to
what you were
prep
getting into.
myself for what was going to happen. And then whenever we were getting to a point where I knew some stuff was going to go down, I would like be on my phone, like scrolling like Instagram or something while watching the movie, like in my peripheral vision.
As like, if you, I don't know, you somebody who's into these kind of horror movies, if you were to like ask me to give an endorsement of a movie, that might be the best endorsement of a horror movie I could think of. Is I couldn't pay attention in some of these parts because I was too afraid.
Yeah.
I had to watch it out of my side eye while I was looking at something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I don't like being scared. I don't like scary movies. So like, it's just, now this is the only of the 4 from this year that I had to do that with. Like I felt like none of the other ones were anything compared to this one. As far as like jump scared, unexpected, like
Even
creepy
thematically,
visuals.
maybe,
yeah, thematically. Like even like It Follows, like I think like we talked about in the last episode, like had some like eeriness to it for sure, but there was nothing like scary about, like there was no jump scares really, although we talked about like, you know, she turned the corner and the person was there. And I think that's where like even that movie, I don't remember the soundtrack matching those moments. You know, where like, and we've talked about this as like a device before, like, you know, you get the really high pitched squeals right as the jump scare is happening, and that elevates those jump scare moments.
Yeah.
I don't feel like It Follows did that, or at least lean into it as much as like a movie like this does.
This definitely leans more into that as
Where-
like a
Like it uses
a
the
device.
music as a device
It almost
to build the
broadcasts
mood.
In-
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like it's really interesting to compare It Follows to this movie, because It Follows, I feel like, does something really different, really original, and this movie feels very classic horror, but not in a bad way. Like sometimes that's just what I really want, and I feel like this does that really well, and so I really enjoy it still. But yeah, I think you're right that it does kind of lean into that.
Yeah, and I think the soundtrack for this was really good. I thought the sound editing was really good. I thought there were some like just good choices for like when to have different like sound effects. Like there were some that were like more in your face with like having like, you know, like the sound of like little girl laughing as something
or
weird
like
was happening,
the
or,
clapping or something like
like, yeah. But there was like other that was a very like subdued, and I had to like rewind and listen to it again, and I was like, oh, weird. Like they were trying to do this like even less in other points, which was interesting.
I'm curious if you guys would agree with this or not, because I feel like a lot of horror movies will have either poorly written characters or just like really stupid characters, or maybe that's both. And I didn't really feel that way with this. Like I felt like the characters all felt real and believable and normal. I mean, I know, Scott, you talked about like the terrible decision to leave your daughter at home unattended for a while. But other than that, like I felt like they were all pretty believable characters, and that just like really helps me buy into the story.
Totally.
I felt like, I think part of it is, I don't know, this is based on a true story, but I don't know how true it is.
Not really, probably.
Yeah, but I think that the family in the house, I think I felt that way, where like they were not necessarily stupid.
Yeah.
And like I kind of it was really weird where you get that moment of like, why don't they just move? And then you're like, well, they can't. I don't know, maybe it's just because I've gotten older and I know what it's like to buy a house or whatever. It's like, oh, they can't afford it.
Yeah.
They can't afford to get out of this
He
house.
says they're upside down in it.
Yeah, they're like, I can't afford to get out of this house. And I don't know that I believe that this is supernatural.
Yeah,
or
right.
like almost you're trying to convince yourself it's not supernatural because it's
You don't
just
want
so,
to have to deal with
Then
all
there's
of
nothing
that.
you can do. Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's just too expensive for you to deal with.
Well,
And like trying to maintain your 5 daughters that you have. And like all that, where like it felt relatable and they did not feel dumb to me. And I feel like that is the trope of a horror movie, is the victims feel very stupid.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that from this.
and I don't know. Once again, like of course, this is all like people's just like talking about it, but one of the daughters of the family is still alive and like talked about this movie and said there was a lot of like accurate things in this movie too. So like, now is she telling the truth? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like she could just, I don't know if she gets money every time it's watched or who knows, but like she seemed to indicate, and so did Lorraine, I think, is still alive too. And she was like, yeah, no, like there's definitely some things that aren't how it happened, but there's a lot of things that were accurate too. So
yeah, I'm sure it's very similar to like the plot points of what happened, just maybe not the movie magic.
sure.
You know what? I don't know how similar it is to the plot points of what happened because I read that the husband, I forget his name, Ed, is that not the Warren guy.
Oh,
The husband that owned the house.
Yeah.
That guy.
The dad.
Apparently he like threw them out of his house. And he said, like, you guys are dangerous and this is not supernatural. I don't believe this. And he threw them out and said, like, you guys are making this worse.
I would believe that
Yeah.
more than I would believe the account of the movie. But that also sounds like something to me that it's okay if they take.
No, I think it's
License
okay to
with
take
it.
license
Yeah.
for sure. But I was just like how accurate it was because
Oh,
like
sure.
they make a point in the movie for him to be like, I'm so grateful for what you guys
Right.
are doing
Right.
and you guys are helping me so much. Whereas the real guy was like, I don't want you in my home.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would say overall, my expectation on it being faithful to the true story is pretty low.
Yeah, and I don't. It's a movie. I don't care. You
Yeah,
know?
I don't either.
So that doesn't super bug me.
Did you guys know that the Warrens were allegedly involved in the Amityville as well?
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
didn't
that's
know
what the call at the end was supposed to be.
Yeah,
I thought the wait.
Oh,
What?
really?
Where they were going to the next case. That
Oh,
was
it was
Amityville.
Amityville.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
It was part of why I picked this movie.
Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, this feels like the better version of Amityville.
Yeah.
You know?
Mhm.
I think that's very accurate. I didn't think about it until Scott said it on our last episode, but
Uh-huh.
I think that's very accurate.
Yeah, the only difference is the dog died in this one and didn't live.
Yeah,
I'm
And I
curious-
guess there was a possession. I don't think there was a possession in Amityville, right?
I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
I'm curious, what were some scares that got you guys?
Every single one.
All of them,
Not a
really?
single one.
Really nothing.
I was not afraid even once during this movie.
Okay.
there was definitely some scares that got me. The ones that always get me are not always the jumpiest of jump scares, but it's like the little things, like
Mhm.
when Bathsheba like hears that like the little girl's in the wall and she like scurries
When-
into the wall.
I think
That scared me.
When discount Joseph Gordon-Levitt screams,
Yes.
I found her.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that-
exactly.
jump scares to me feel cheap. I don't know, like that. It's like oh, and then you're over it, or whatever it is. No matter what it is, jump scares feel cheap to me and not that scary. So
Yeah.
like the other scares in a movie, I feel like are more well earned, or like the more unsettling.
It's like I agree with that, but also like it just feels like a jump scare is so ingrained to the genre that I enjoy. Like I
it
enjoy
when it
them
happens.
too.
Yeah, I
I
enjoy
don't.
it when it
If
happens.
that's all a movie is and it's nothing like it's not any scarier than the few jump scares it has, then that's disappointing to me.
Uh-huh.
But when a solid film like this has some decent jump scares, like I enjoy that.
What were some that you in particular liked, or one? that
I
you-
agree with you that they're not always jump scares. There's more like creepy moments that will make my skin crawl a little. Sheet falls off of the clothesline.
Oh
and,
God,
like,
that's a
catches
good
on the
one.
figure.
Yeah, and
And-
then
and-
flies up to the window, and then
That-
it's on the other side. Oh, that was all really.
That creeped me
that
out.
was really good.
Very much so. And everything with Bathsheba really did get me. Like I thought she was scary.
Yeah.
I was watching this movie in bed on my phone in the dark. Kate was asleep. And it got to that point right after the sheet part, and then you start to see Bathsheba, and I pause it. I'm like, I'll finish this tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you think any of that was undercut by some of the very cheesy moments where like what's his name, Ed Warren was like, I condemn you back to hell, and then it felt like almost an action movie where he's like, I've got this, like, and it felt so cheesy and so stupid.
You mean
to-
during The Exorcist?
Yeah, where it was like
No, it didn't bother
It didn't
me.
read as cheesy
Yeah,
to me.
not at
didn't-
all.
I
they
was
like
so
and, like
cheesy.
everything, like the music stops, they focus, I condemn you, and it just felt so. I
I
almost
was in
laughed
it.
out loud at that.
Oh no, I was in it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it's because like at the end of the day, I do want resolution and I want good to prevail over evil. So I am kind of rooting for them, even if maybe like isolated from the movie, it's kind of cheesy.
I'm 100% I'm rooting for them,
Uh-huh.
but it's just like it feels so cheesy to me.
It didn't. And I mean, I don't know. I'd probably be screaming the same thing if I'm trying to perform.
Yeah,
an
I
exorcism.
think I would
feel like-
appear
yeah.
just
I
as
feel like I
crazy.
gotta sell this thing, you know?
Well, and I've never performed an exorcism myself.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Knock
I-
on fake wood.
but I have
Ultimately.
like done like house calls of people who feel like there's like demonic like presences and
same.
stuff, and like you do have to like proclaim things like that. And I mean, I don't know, it felt real to me. It didn't feel like cheesy, or it might have been a little over the top, but
I
not
think
that much.
I'm not saying that. I just think that the delivery and everything about what was happening in that moment felt cheesy.
Yeah, and I hear you. I just, for me, it didn't. Like, for me, it was yeah, it felt pretty.
It felt appropriate for the
appropriate.
moment.
Yeah.
Like if I'm a dude who's not a priest, and I've never really done an exorcism myself, but I
And
know
I've
how
been-
they're done.
and I've been told by the people who can do this that I cannot do it.
Yeah, and like I have lots of experiences with like demonic things. I believe that they're true. Like
Right.
I think it's a pretty high tense moment. Like I think he's scared.
I think that's why it's so tense, and it felt like something out of an action movie to me. Where like that's why it didn't play for me, is I would have been so afraid. I would have been so all these things. And then he felt like an action star in that 1 second to me, where I was like,
Yeah, I didn't play like that.
he felt like he was like so in control.
And I get what you mean. I just think that's like it's the fight or flight response. Like his response was fight, and usually like when you're facing like insurmountable odds and your instinct is to fight, like you're gonna draw on whatever you can, and even if that means like even like projecting power like to your enemy but also to your allies, that like you need them to rally around you. You don't, like, if you cower in fear, they're cowering in fear. Like if we don't fight this thing, we're going to die. Like that all feels super like real to me and not cheesy at all.
Question, and this is more like a did I miss something? Because I might have. There was a couple times I got up and got water and different things that I didn't pause it because I didn't want to. So like they early in the movie he talks about how like demons can't like go into like a non-being, like it can't go over an object, like demons possess people,
Right.
And then like there all that stuff happens, and then later on he's like now having like these like conversations with Lorraine around like I don't want you here. Like was she possessed? Did I miss that part of the movie? Like what happened with her?
Happened to her, and I think we were a little bit intentionally vague about what happened to her.
I wasn't sure. I was like, okay, I must have missed whatever it is. I'm not going to rewind and go watch because I don't care that much. But
it was only alluded to, and it was briefly shown once, that she engaged in some sort of exorcism and experienced that ghost or demon that they exorcised like hostily attacked her.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't. It wasn't like
But that's all we know.
It wasn't necessarily she was possessed. It took a lot out of her.
Ed says something to the extent of like every time we do this, like it takes a little piece of her, and that one took a big piece.
Okay.
And it's pretty ambiguous as to what that really means, but
got it.
Clearly, it was very traumatic.
And then
It's just
earlier-
that she sees stuff that Ed doesn't see.
Yeah.
And so every time they do this, like she's a little more traumatized than he is.
And then earlier he had talked about how like the demons can't like be in an object, but just want to possess people.
But then it's like
he's like locking up all these
living
objects.
in Annabelle.
And like, yeah, I'm just wondering like,
I don't know.
why was that? Just
I think
a
it's
plot hole. Or
No, I think it's a little bit of a plot hole, but I think the explanation, like from what I understand about these actual people and like the type of work that these type of paranormal investigators do, is that it's like it's just safer to lock up, because if an entity from the other realm, whatever, like has interacted with this before, it's easier for them to do it again. So it's just safer to lock some of that stuff away, like paraphernalia away, because it's like a thin spot between the two dimensions.
'Cause I think they hadn't necessarily possessed the thing, but they had used the thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Even though it very much feels like it's possessing the thing. Like it feels like Annabelle's possessed.
Oh, 100%.
And that kind of touches on, I think, my biggest issue with the movie is the Annabelle of it all. And I actually like kind of enjoyed the first, almost like the prologue to the film, because
The Annabelle spot.
Yeah, because apparently Annabelle like allegedly also happened as well, and so I feel like that's kind of like it could have been just a cool Easter egg, I guess, for people who are really into this. But I didn't enjoy that it continued to be a threat throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And I felt like it almost kind of bogged down the movie a little bit to jump back to their house.
I agree.
And to see the daughter in danger and locked in the study. And it felt like I was watching a more generic movie in the middle of a movie that rises above being a generic.
Well, it felt like almost just two different movies happening at the same
100%.
time.
Yeah, definitely.
It felt like maybe what it should have been, and maybe what they were going for was like the first mission that you get in an action movie, like a Mission Impossible,
Right.
or like the A-Team. It's like, this is them,
Yeah,
and this is them doing it well, and this is
At
why,
their best.
yeah, and this is why people are calling on them.
Right.
definitely.
And then it just got a little bit too much in the weeds of it.
Yeah.
And I guess I can't fault them because they made a whole entire spin-off trilogy and have made a ton of money.
Yeah.
But I didn't
But
like
it
that.
just doesn't play great in the movie.
Yeah.
It felt like they were trying to set up more movies instead of
exactly.
Yeah.
doing the movie that we were watching.
I do
100%.
feel like it was surprising how many of the students at the college in the beginning had a question. Like virtually every single student had a question.
You know what? When I was in college, if I saw these people, I would have a lot of questions.
I would have a lot of questions too.
And also the video they were showing, I am uncertain. Like, did they recreate the Annabelle scenes and the students saw what we saw? Or was the video something different than what we saw?
I mean, they had a videographer with them the whole movie, so my assumption is that they brought that guy.
So much of the Annabelle stuff was pre them being introduced into it. It was like their experience of Annabelle is what we were seeing.
Yeah.
Was it?
I
don't think we didn't see the Annabelle stuff apart from the Warrens. I don't think.
Yeah, the lady
No,
was
I
like
think we
telling
did.
the story of like
She's telling the story
look at
to the
door,
Warrens.
and it wasn't there.
Yeah, but we're seeing her telling of the story.
Oh,
And I'm just wondering,
yeah, I
did
don't
the
know.
students see that, or did they just see like an
No.
interview?
I assume they saw an interview, and that was just like us, like a dramatic like oh, you're watching, some TV,
We got
some true
we got
crime
behind
show,
the scenes, but
Yeah.
the students did.
or we got a dramatic reenactment.
Because I feel like if they saw what we saw, I understand the hand raise. I feel like they were just watching an interview of someone saying those things. I feel like anyway, that's not important of the movie. It's just something else I thought.
One thing though, the like college lecture kind of reminded me of like is he an apprentice? I don't know. The dude, the like college age dude who was hanging out with them.
Low rent Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Exactly. And I thought it was kind of fun watching him and the cop have a little bit of a relationship.
Mhm.
Like I just enjoyed. It's a small part of the movie. Neither one of those characters needed to be in the movie, but I kind of liked that they were, and I feel like just those few scenes provided just a nice little counterbalance to the darkness that is for the most part this movie, and makes this kind of movie just a little bit more like palatable.
That was my
And
biggest.
I was just gonna say I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I think part of them being there feeds into this being a true story. Like I just feel like they're present because why else would they be? Like it just
Right.
feels like something that's written there because that's what happened. It doesn't feel like a good plot point.
I don't know that I agree at all. Like they are people that are trying to profess that this is the real thing. They're going to attract, people to help them, and they're going to attract skeptics. And to bring them along didn't necessarily feel fake to me or didn't necessarily feel like, oh, like they're forcing this in. It just felt like, oh, this is probably something they would have done to give themselves more credibility, because ultimately the more credibility they have, the more like
Money they make.
yeah, and just the easier their job becomes. I feel like
I agree. Why was that in disagreement with what I said?
you were just saying like it felt like very forced into the movie, or like this dude was in the movie because it's what happened. But I don't know. I feel like it added to the movie, and I feel like it added to them and their
I don't know that I felt like it added anything to the movie. Like I agree. I liked their interactions. Like if they're going to be there, they have to interact with somebody, and I liked their interactions, the cop and the apprentice. But I didn't feel like having either of them there added anything to the film.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just our relief, like then that makes it less effective,
Right.
Right. But that was one of my things I thought about that made me laugh in the movie was the cop coming up to work the next day. What happened to your face?
Yeah.
And then having to be like, a demon.
It was a demon.
A demon
demon
did this to
bit
me,
me.
I swear.
No big deal. Well, what do you guys say we put this one to bed?
Yeah, Ty, you're gonna be up first.
All right, I'm gonna give this an 8.1. Vomiting into mothers' mouths.
Jake.
I'm gonna give this a 6.7 dead dogs.
Zach.
I'll give this 8.2 Shivas.
And I'm going to give this a 7.6. Movies I will never watch again.
I'm surprised you went higher than me.
You talked way worse about it than I did.
Yeah,
I just said I didn't enjoy my experience.
It sounded like it was effective for Scott.
Yeah, it did, John.
So this comes out to a 76%. Once again, Rotten Tomatoes gave this an 86%. IMDb gave it a 7.5. So we're right in line with IMDb, just a little bit above. And it comes out to movie number 82 out of 151.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe I should caveat. It's just the most enjoyment I could get out of a movie like this. Maybe I don't know. Like I don't feel like it would. I just feel like this is not the horror that I like, and it's not the horror that I necessarily understand why people want to watch.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, Jake, we have an opportunity for you to show us the type of horror you like next week.
Yeah, we're gonna watch The Thing. And sorry, one more thing I should probably plug is we do have a giveaway going on right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Check at Rotten Potato Pod on Instagram if you guys want to win this cup that only the patrons can see. If you guys want to see it, subscribe to us on Patreon.
And or check us out on Instagram where you can win this prize also at Rotten Potato Pod.
Yeah.
Tyler, any last thoughts before we go into the final week of Spooktober?
Thank God. I'm gonna pee.
Yeah,
Apologize to
well.
the patrons for me.
Oh, well, I'll wait till we get off of Patreon to pee. Is anybody watching?
I don't know, but I'm gonna just go grab something.
All right, so
Where's your beer?
Yeah, there's probably some
In the
either in this fridge or if not, there's some in the garage fridge.
Zach and Tyler on beer runs.
Yeah, they both went to get beers and left you guys, but me and Jake are still here.
Yeah, I have to pee, but I'm holding it until they come back. For
Okay.
you guys.
Who did your sisters like do that with like a cricket?
They did a cricket.
Okay.
I think they kind of want to get into doing this kind of thing with like making like t-shirts or whatever to sell on Etsy or like cups or whatever. So I don't know, this might be their practice, but I think it turned out pretty well, honestly. I think it looks good, and if you're a fan, I think it'd be a fun thing to have.
Is there a potato on it at all, or is it just spooky stuff?
It's bats and ghosts. There's no potatoes on it. Maybe next year I'll give them that feedback to put a potato.
Maybe whoever wins it, we could fill it with like liquefied potato,
mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I don't have to ship this to you, and you want mashed potatoes, let's say you win, reach out to me on Instagram and I can fill it with mashed potatoes for you.
Yeah. Well, are they going to be like good mashed potatoes or rotten mashed potatoes?
Rotten mashed potatoes.
Hey,
I feel like she might be peeing.
she's just barking.
Okay. She was like kind of squatting.
Yeah. Stop.
I just scared her coming
Yeah.
around too fast.
I don't know why. That's my dog again. For all you patrons out there.
I think
Yeah,
she's
I'm
just
just
taking
scared.
time to get used to, because this is what my dog was not barky, but he was very timid, and he's just like a pound dog. I think she's just gonna take some time.
Well, it's every time someone is walking towards me.
Yeah.
Like there's the gap closing towards me is when she does that.
Interesting.
So like I was at the dog park yesterday and there was another guy there with his dog. And as when he walked towards me, she ran from across the park to get in between us and started barking.
Yeah, because like she's been walking around me. I've been petting her. I'm petting her right now.
Uh-huh.
She's
Yeah,
not.
I was
It
petting
has
her during
nothing
the
to do
last-
with me.
Yeah.
Like
or during this episode. I don't know how this Patreon
Oh,
feed
I'm
works.
sorry.
Is this this is going out as part of the Conjuring feed? Or
yes.
how does, okay.
Yeah.
So during this episode, I was petting her a little bit. She was chilling.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna tag out and I'm gonna use the bathroom. I'm gonna get some more.
All right, Patreon. Thanks so much. Next episode coming soon.